I have a friend of mine who has been divorced 3 times. So this friend of mine, who at the time, I was in my 40s, he was 50-something. So he says, I want you to go skiing with me. So I said, really, I don't want to go skiing. He said, look, you have not witnessed the feeling of going downhill with the wind in your face and the sound and the freedom of going down at this speed, and it's just you and God. And he started to rhapsodize this, and I kept looking at him and I kept saying, wonderful for you, but I don't want to. Well, he's one of these people, you know, they keep it up and they keep it up and they keep it up. But he kept it up, and finally I said, okay, I'll go with you. I'll go with you on a Saturday. Oh, great. So he comes up and he says, I'll take you over to the store to buy the stuff. So I said, okay. So we go over to this place, all these salespeople walking around with tan, wrinkled skin, but white circles around it. Look like negatives of a raccoon, you know. And they all have great white teeth, great healthy looking teeth. So the guy said, okay. He said, why don't you sit down and we'll measure your foot and get you in a boot. So I said to the fella, I said, do me a favor. I don't want the most expensive. I want the best. He said, no problem. So sit down and take off the shoes and the socks. So I said, okay. And then he brought a basket with some used sweat socks in them. Well, there's a certain, I think I could put on somebody else's used and worn just a few minutes ago underpants. And it would not bother me as much as somebody else's sock. My toes drew back. This guy had never seen anything like it. You know how a turtle's head goes in? All of my toes went way back into the foot. And he said, I've never seen this before. I said, they don't want a used sock. I said, now if you get a pack of fresh sweat socks, these toes will come back out. So we put them on and he measured my foot. So the fella comes back with a box. And now we're going to, he's, all right, let's put your foot in. Well, I'm not used to going into these blue things. They look like 2 shiny cinder blocks. So I go in sideways with the foot, turn, push, and he says, now just push hard and bang your heel on the drum. Go. And then I'm in. And this is how you put a boot on. So he fastens the thing. And now my ankle is locked. So do the same thing with the other foot, and you go. And he locked ankles. Now what these boots have done is they've taken away my ankles. I mean, there's nothing that moves now except my knees. So this guy said, okay, now stand up. So I said, but you just locked my ankles. He said, go ahead. So I stand up. I keep my knees bent because if I straighten my legs out, I know I'm going to fall. I need my ankles. So he says, now rock to the left. And I went to my left. He said, now rock to the right. I went to right. He says, now just make a circle. And I did I made it. But I was beginning to feel what he was talking about, and I began to see myself out there, and I began to see snow slicing. I was slicing snow left and right, and I was feeling, and I didn't even have poles yet, So he said, now walk. And then that's when it got funny because I have no ankles. I'm just walking. So he said, just walk a little bit more now, rock a little bit. And, I love that part, let's go on. And then I back up and he says, sit down. So I said, okay. He said, how do they feel? I said, I'm glad you asked. I said, now right here on this right foot, right here in the middle of the foot, there's a bone. And the shoe is pressing this bone. And it is hurting, man. It is painful right there. It's mashing that bone. But up top here where the boot starts, that's rubbing on my skin, and it's making it raw starting there. Now, on the other side of my foot, where the big toe is, well, there's a bone there, and it's mashing that bone. I said, and underneath on where my arch is, there's a blister coming up here. I said, now the other foot, I said, my little toe, I don't know what happened, but when I stamped down, my little toe got mixed up. And it's somewhere under my big toe. The other 3 toes in the middle are really confused. They're all on top of each other. And there is a cut. I think it's bleeding now. I don't know, because I can't feel anything because this other bone cut the nerve. So everything is numb, but up top here, this is bleeding right away. He said they fit. Well, I'm walking around this place buying stuff, man. I bought some, you have to have 2 outfits. One is for your skin and the other is to cover up that part. So I bought these skin tight things, and they would keep the heat of your own body in, but not let cold into your body. You understand what I'm saying? So then you put on these other pants, and they block the cold from getting to the part that wouldn't let the cold in anyway. So you are insulated with your own body heat. So you will never get cold. And these are tight. These things are tight. And I put a top on, that was tight, and the jacket. So that cost $1,700, But it wasn't the most expensive. It was the best, And I bought some sunglasses, cost $600, that will never let the sun in. The sun will never. Matter of fact, you can't see. But everybody says I look cool. People say, I don't. You don't even look like you're looking at me. I said, I'm not. I don't know where. And I bought some poles for the skis. They cost $700 because they're special, you know, they won't leave your hand. And I bought some gloves, Day Glow, so that if I'm skiing in the street, cars can see me when I'm coming. And I paid $3,500 for the skis because these are new skis. You never have to wax them. They wax themselves. There's a little motor on the side, wax. So I come out and we're going skiing, and my friend is saying, "Now, are you happy?" I said, "Yeah, Jack." But I don't know anything about skiing, so he helped me put the skis on top of his car, and he's got this little thing now. So he started. But you know what I noticed about little cars like that? The heater is, we're talking perseverance, man. We're talking about a heater. I got these clothes on that already I'm 98.6 all the way around. I mean, sweat is rolling off of me and staying within me. And he's got this heater, this little tube, and this thing is kicking off. It's about 105, and you can't turn the thing off. If you do, the engine will shut down. And I'm sitting there, and this guy is driving, man, and sweat is running down my face. I got about 5 pounds of sweat in the seat of my pants, and it won't go anywhere. It's just sitting there. And I'm beginning to feel like a balloon, you know, a water balloon, man. I said, these guys should have sold this to me with a little spigot, so that when it gets too much, I can let it out, I said, what is it? Just sweat, don't bother me. But I do know that there's one thing that will break your concentration. I don't care what you're doing and how good it is. If a trickle of sweat runs down the middle of your back, that will get your attention because you know where it's headed. You go, oh, what are you doing? And the thing that just kept going down and all this water is hanging there. So I got on these sunglasses where nobody can tell what I'm looking, So I had the window rolled down. I was hanging, trying to live, man. Because I'm cooking myself in my own juices. And people are driving past, and everybody's passing us because this car. I'm going to tell you, and you're not going to believe me, and I don't care. I don't care, but I'm going to tell you what I saw, and it happened. This car, wait a minute. And he went into third, and the car said, and then it took a breath. Now, I knew you wouldn't believe me, but I don't care. I don't care. The car said, so we're driving, and we pull in, he pulls into a parking lot. He says, well, we're here. So I look to see where, the people are skiing. So I said, well, where are the people skiing? He said, we have to walk a mile. I said, in these boots? So I don't want the guy to feel that, well, Bill started with a bad attitude. I want him to feel that once I say I don't like skiing, that he's going to understand that I gave it a great shot. So I said, well, here we go.